What's going on YouTube? It's Tej back again with another video, and today I'm giving you my reaction to Todd McShay's, I believe, first mock draft for the 2022 draft cycle. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you do, hit that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you're new to the channel, want to see more draft and football content in general, hit that big red subscribe button. And of course, most importantly, these reaction videos are really just a catalyst for us to talk about our favorite prospects, fits we might think are interesting, and risers, followers, everything like that down in the comment section. So give me your reaction to Todd McShay's mock draft. Give me your reaction to my reaction, right? Let's go Inception level here. But I'm happy to report I've been able to avoid seeing this. This is the first time I've seen it. I know it came out earlier this week compared to when you're seeing this on Saturday. And I even saw some other people did reactions to it, steered clear to those videos, and I know ESPN was talking about it, switched the channel when it came on. So this is my first time looking at it. I'm excited to go ahead and jump into it. Let's just go ahead and get underway, starting with Aiden Hutchinson at number 1 and Kayvon Thibodeaux at number 2. This feels like how it's going to play out, at least as we sit right here in the middle of December. It comes down between these two prospects. What do you value more, recency or your priors coming into the season? If you favor your priors and you saw Kayvon Thibodeaux as a potential number 1 pick, he didn't play anything less than that, right? Like, he deserves to be in that conversation. Aiden Hutchinson, I would be in that category of leaning on what I've seen from somebody lately. Football is a game of what have you done for me lately. Hutchinson stood out a little bit, and a little bit more than Thibodeaux, that is. And additionally, his ability to improve as a pass rusher from last year to this year, coming off the leg injury, is really, really inspiring. And then Detroit, Michigan, that's like a fun connection. So it makes a ton of sense there. And then for the Texans, Kayvon Thibodeau's a slam dunk there at 2. Scheme versatile, can fit in a 3-4 or 4-3. There's really no going wrong with Thibodeaux, depending on what the future might hold for Houston and any potential defensive changes, because I don't think Lovie Smith's the long-term guy there. Evan Neal, the number 3 pick. I think this is, kind of chalky of a start. I think it makes a ton of sense. He could be the Cam Robinson replacement at left tackle. He could be the Jawan Taylor replacement at right tackle. I almost think at this point, especially now, no Urban Meyer, you like to think some of these young players could actually get better. But it could be a spot where, think about the Lions last year where Taylor Decker was already there on the left side, and Decker's like a pretty good tackle. Robinson's just kind of a league starter. But starting caliber tackles are pretty rare to come by, and Jawan Taylor just hasn't worked out, so I'm almost intrigued by the idea if they re-sign Robinson, you pay him whatever, he's a tackle, he can start, and he's not terrible, and then you play Evan Neal at right tackle. Kind of an interesting prospect. Also, you could play him on the inside, right? They've been looking to trade Andrew Norwell for years, but this allows you to protect Trevor Lawrence and improve that offense for the future. Derek Stingley Jr. at 4. I've seen some mocks where Stingley, Kyle Hamilton, especially when the Jets have the 4th and 5th picks, and the order's obviously still being moved around week by week. But I know Robert Saleh's defense is one that can hide weak secondary play. But that said, think about what that defense could look like with elite secondary play, right? And a player like Derek Stingley Jr. gives you somebody who could be that. I know his 2019 tape's the best tape out there, and that was the freshman year, and it was 3 years ago. But just look at the measurables, his size, his weight, his ability to press the line. He'll be great at the combine and pro day. I mean, I think this is going to be a CB1 in the future for whoever gets him. And I think the Jets would be more than happy, right? There's going to come a time where, despite that defense, 3rd and 8, less than 2 minutes to go, 4th quarter, you're playing man-on-man, and you need to take away someone's number 1 wide receiver. And Derek Stingley Jr. could be that type of guy. And then you move Bryce Hall to CB2. I'm kind of running down the hill here. But I like that pick there for the Jets at 4. George Karlaftis, the Giants at 5. This might be a little earlier than I would have pegged him, but him and actually the next guy on the screen here, Charles Cross, were both prospects where I said they're not quite blue chippers in my last big board, but they're right there on the door for it. And once I see their athletic measurables and I diagnose more of their tape and go back to their big games this year and see how they fared against some of their tougher competition, they easily could move into that blue chip category for me. Karlaftis at 5, I think makes sense. This is a team that could use some additional edge rush. Karlaftis could fit in that 3-4-4-3. He could play 3-4 DN. I think he could stand up, play outside linebacker in the Giants scheme. So I think this is a good fit. And it addresses one of their biggest needs on defense, and really maybe one of their last huge needs on that side of the football. And Charles Cross at 6. I know the Panthers need a quarterback, but whoever that quarterback ends up being, they also need to be able to try to keep him upright, right? And this offensive line's detrimental. Like, it prohibits them from winning games. So you draft Charles Cross, like that pick. He plays in an offense where he's been forced to pass block more than just about any other tackle across the country, and he's done great. And he's been consistent and really been able to avoid bad games all year long. Play Cross at left tackle, Taylor Moton at right, and then maybe you're trying to use your mid-round picks or your free agency money to patch up the interior offensive line and really try to lure a veteran quarterback like the Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson that this article mentioned. So I like that pick there at 6. Kobe Dean at 7. So I said Karlaftis was a little early. I think Dean might be even more the case here for me. I know linebacker is a need. Blake Martinez can't play forever, and he's more of a run stopper than a coverage linebacker. Dean is such a good athlete that he'll naturally give you that coverage ability. Plus, I think he's a pretty good blitzer. So I think it makes sense, and it is a position need. It's one of those spots at 7 where do you use that pick to address interior offensive line, or do you use it to address linebacker? Two low-value positions, right? I don't know if you go Linderbaum here, but maybe Ikem Ekwonu could make sense. Guard tackle, flexibility, allows you to keep your options open for the future. Maybe that's the route I'd go, but maybe a little early for Dean, but they'd be getting a stud player here, and it would address a position of need. So we'll see how this plays out once we get through free agency, and I get a better look at what Dean might look like when it comes to his stock. Is 7 a little high? Right now, I'd say it is. Then to the Atlanta Falcons at 8. What a pick here, right? So if they do go Jameson Williams, that would signal to me that potentially the end of the Calvin Ridley era, and Atlanta will see. I know he is out right now focusing on his mental health. All the credit in the world for him to prioritize that. But Jameson Williams would allow this team to be able to move forward, even if they keep Ridley. That would be a really interesting and a really fun offense then to see, assuming at this point you would hold on to Matt Ryan and you're trying to give it one last hurrah. The offensive line's a bit of a weakness here, so could also be an O-line spot. But Jameson Williams, as wide receiver 1 also, very interesting. And I think him and Pitts, assuming there's no Ridley, him and Pitts is a really dynamic pass-catching combination for the future for Atlanta. And almost kind of makes me think about Kansas City with Hill and Kelsey just a little bit. Jets back on the board at number 9, get Kyle Hamilton. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier, where I know this defense will limit, the bad play that could potentially come from your secondary, but imagine how good that defense could look with some elite secondary talent. You get a cornerback 1, now you get the best safety in the class who can be in the box, play deep. He could play the nickel. You name it. You can get out of Kyle Hamilton. He's unbelievable. He's got the size too. And also this could be a Marcus May replacement, or at least a replacement in the sense that now if you got this to come to fruition, you would feel comfortable saying, Marcus May, it's all right. You want to go somewhere else. Someone else will pay you $12 million a year or whatever he ends up commanding for a contract. He's a good football player, but you could get Kyle Hamilton. He's obviously a cheaper option at a position that you don't normally pay a whole lot to. So I'm intrigued by that, and I think that would help out that secondary a ton. And that defense has been pretty bad down the stretch. So on to pick number 10, David Ojabo. And the Eagles' 3 first-round picks, it feels like they're definitely going to grab one of these DNs. And Ojabo feels like a worthy project for them because this guy's only been playing for 5 years. He's getting a ton of buzz, uber athletic. The production matches with it. There's no reason he can't go in the top 10, right? And, Brandon Graham's getting older. Derek Barnett also into his 30s. Ojabo and Sweat could be the guys of the future at the DN spot. I've also seen some mocks with Marvin Leal being taken by the Eagles at like 17. I think Austin Gale from Pro Football Focus did something like that in like the 20s, and I love that fit. I think he could definitely be a potential Fletcher Cox replacement or somebody you just in general play next to, Javon Hargrave. So really intrigued by that, but Ojabo here at 10. There are other positions that need, but if the Eagles are not going to go quarterback, which to this point they haven't, I think addressing the defense is the way to go, and getting younger on the D-line is certainly a good start. Speaking of DeMarvin Leal, he goes here at number 11 to the Raiders. All midway through the season when I was doing my early mocks, 1.0, 2.0s, etc., I was trying to force feed Christian Barmore to the Raiders because for years now I've been saying, man, if they can get some interior pressure, it'll help everything on the edge, etc., etc. Leal gives you a lot of versatility to be a 4-3 end, or you can play on the inside, 3-4 DN too. I think is well within his future potential prospects, and who knows what this defense will shape out to be. I don't think Gus Bradley's going to be around after this year. They're going to hire, a coach that's not Rick Bisaccia, and they're going to go hire their DC. So the scheme might change, and Leal, if depending on who that coach is, could be a perfect fit for that defense to go along with Max Crosby and Yannick Ngakoue. He's been really good when he's played. So really intrigued by that pick, and I've been trying to go IDL for the Raiders for years now. So I really appreciate McShay thinking the same way. Kenny Pickett to the Steelers, I think you're going to see this a ton because it's the hometown kid staying at home, quote unquote hometown kid, played at Pitt, gets drafted by the Steelers, makes a ton of sense, and he is the oldest quarterback in this class. So I could see a team like the Steelers or the Saints, Washington football team, these teams with good rosters, especially good defenses and coaching staffs that for years have been, wanting to win now, right? Mike Tomlin looking to add another ring to his resume. Washington, Ron Rivera is still looking for his first postseason win in Washington. Made it to the Super Bowl in Carolina, and then, Sean Payton, obviously one of the best coaches in football right now. So I think Pickett makes a ton of sense for those teams. I'm not over the moon about Kenny Pickett, but he has gotten better to where he started his career at Pitt to where he is now. Now I'm a little skeptical. All of a sudden, he's the best quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in football, in college football. That is. I'm a little skeptical how it happened all of a sudden. Might be a little fluky, but you can't knock 42 touchdowns whatever he had with the Panthers this year. And Pittsburgh needs a quarterback. This would allow him to get cheaper the position. He'll be 24 midway through his rookie season, so I think this would be a logical route for the Steelers to take. Then we get the Washington football team also going quarterback. And Matt Corral was who I had the Washington football team taken in my last mock. I think it makes a ton of sense. You get the mobile ability that offense has become accustomed to with Taylor Heineke, but you get a guy with a stronger arm, can put more zip behind it, and obviously younger. It allows you to get somebody who could potentially be your franchise quarterback. So I really like that pick there for Washington. Devin Lloyd to the Eagles, so you go to Ojabo. Then you go Devin Lloyd. Really interested in what they do with that third pick here. But now you've addressed the D-line and the linebacker, 2/3 of the defensive levels. I like this pick a ton. This is one of the weakest position groups I think that the Eagles have, and Devin Lloyd is maybe not as twitchy an athlete as someone like a Nakobe Dean or even a Brandon Smith out of Penn State, but he's not far from it, and he's so smart, high IQ football guy, puts himself in the right position at the right time, and he's a playmaker because of that. So I like this fit here for the Eagles, trying to address their defense. And at this point, I would venture to say that third pick probably in the secondary. We'll see once we get there. Speaking of secondary, Vikings going Sauce Gardner. I think this is a slam dunk, especially if Zimmer doesn't get fired. This is one of his guys, right? 6'2", long arms. This has Mike Zimmer written all over it as a guy that he would like and fall in love with. Additionally, Pat Peterson is well past his 30s. Rashad Berlin has been nothing spectacular this season. I don't know why they don't want to play Cam Dantzler, but that's a different talk for a different day. I think Sauce Gardner gives them a potential number one corner of the future, which is something this team desperately needs. Also, wouldn't hate edge here. Tyler Linderbaum to the Bengals. I think this is, like McShay says here, no-brainer move. Patch up the inside of that offensive line that has been, the weaker of the two between the IOL and the tackles. Riley Reid, did just get hurt, and he's out for the rest of the year. And he's on a one-year deal. So tackle's certainly in play here for the Bengals, but I think Linderbaum makes a ton of sense and allows Jim to patch up that interior of the offensive line that has been, not great so far this season. Broncos go Malik Willis. I mean, this is the upside play here, right? Almost been more intrigued by him going to a place where they have a starter already in place, but it'd be interesting to see who Denver goes to as that bridge quarterback. Feels like they already have that guy in Teddy Bridgewater. We'll see. But when it comes to what McShay's trying to argue here with Herbert, Mahomes, that's your division. You need one of these elite quarterbacks. I think Denver's going to be more in play for someone like a Russell Wilson or an Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson potentially. So I think that'll be the route they end up going as opposed to young quarterback. And then this pick will probably be flipped to whoever has that quarterback that they end up getting. Drake London at 18. I think this is a solid place for him to go. Gives you some versatility playing on the inside and the outside. I know you have Jarvis Landry as your primary slot guy, but he's battled a ton of injuries. Also, if you go 4 wide, you need 2 slots. I think that makes some sense there. Been impressed by his ability to move outside and still have success in that area. Huge hands and has gotten better as a separator. His route running has improved, and he's been able to make it happen on his own ability, right? As opposed to it being 50-50 ball and he makes the play. It's been able to, I can get open and I can create for the offense in a different way other than just chucking it down the field hoping I come down with it. So Drake London, really impressive player, and he's kind of grown on me as this year's gone on. I think he's the Pro Football Focus top rated wide receiver this year, so that speaks to his production this year with the Trojans. Desmond Ridder to the Saints. Not a big Ridder guy. I'm not really enthralled by the idea of him being a first-round quarterback. But that said, for the Saints, I think that would be the one place where if he got drafted in the first round, I'd actually be okay with it. Because Sean Payton has made a living off these quarterbacks being able to live underneath, right? Drew Brees, Teddy Bridgewater went 5-0 that one year when Brees went down, and Teddy B was the next guy up. And you even see it a little bit with Taysom Hill now. He's not great throwing the football down the field, not because of his arm, but just because he's a little late making those decisions. All that to say, that's an offense predicated on the underneath passing game. But Ridder then gives you, on top of that, the rushing ability that you have with Taysom Hill, and it kind of opens up the playbook with how much you can do. And I think if you're going to be a guy with not an excellent arm, be able to push the ball on the field, Ritter has good arm strength, not necessarily consistent hitting his targets down the field. But if he can live underneath and then have his rushing ability to go with it, I think there's enough there to build an offense around, at least right away, for Sean Payton, New Orleans. So this would probably be the one spot where I wouldn't hate seeing Ritter go if he were to be drafted in the first round. Eagles actually, instead of secondary, they go wide receiver with Garrett Wilson. It sounds like he's going to be a little bit shorter than 6'3", which I think is what he's listed on the Ohio State, roster, and he's probably going to be a little bit less weight, kind of a Rashad Bateman type of situation. But this would be interesting. Devonta Smith and Garrett Wilson, then you officially move Jalen Reagor into the slot, or you just move on from him in general. That's really interesting. So you go defense, D-line, linebacker, then wide receiver with that third pick. I'm intrigued by that. I almost wish the Eagles would just go all for it on defense, get a D lineman, linebacker, corner, and just fill out all three levels, or even a safety for that matter, depending on if Kyle Hamilton was in play earlier on the board. But I don't hate the pick of Wilson. You win on the outside in a lot of ways. So I think that's a really interesting fit opposite of Devonta Smith. And Devonta Smith might have been the best route runner in last year's draft. Garrett Wilson might be the best pure separator in this class. So if you have a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, how do you combat that? Get guys who can naturally get open. Wilson, Smith, the Eagles would have that. Pick number 21, Ikem Ekwonu. I don't see him falling this far, but this would be a slam dunk for the Dolphins. He could play left tackle. I think he would be obviously an improvement over Austin Jackson. You could also play him at guard. Ultimately, I think what they would do is play him at tackle, maybe even right tackle, because that's your blindside protector for Tua, and then move Eichenberg or Jackson, whichever tackle loses their starting job. Move them inside to guard, which I think both would probably benefit from. So like this pick, you got to address the offensive line for the Dolphins, no doubt about it. Trevor Penning, big, tall tackle out of Northern Iowa. Doesn't play great competition, obviously coming from the FCS, but this is a spot where Ronnie Stanley's been injury prone. Ideally, you'd be able to have him back next year at 100%, but Trevor Penning could be your right tackle of the future. A little bit of a project, just given the level of competition he's gone up against, but this is a spot where you would just trust the Ravens' ability to develop players, right? They see a guy with great size, starting tackle strength, and just fits the billing from what he looks like as a player, and then polish him up to where he can hold his own against NFL edge rushers. So I like that pick there. Roger McCreary to the Bills. It's kind of funny. Roger McCreary, in a lot of ways, makes me think of Tre'Davious White. They're about the same size, and they just have that ability to I don't want to say take over a game, because it's hard to do that as a corner without picks, but shut down one side of the field. And in a variety of ways. Roger McCreary primarily does it in man, and Tre'Davious White does the same way, but also Buffalo plays a heavy amount of zone, and Tre'Davious White still makes impacts. And it'd be really interesting to see if McCreary was taken by Buffalo. You have these two guys who can be excellent man coverage corners, but if you play a lot of zone and force them to play in the flats, or even in mid-hook zones or something like that, you have some versatility with what you can do, or even quarters with these guys if Buffalo continues to move in that direction. That's a really interesting fit, and I think if you can handle man coverage, you can learn how to play zone. It's not always that easy, obviously, coming from a guy who has never played a down in the NFL, but there is a little bit of an easier transition in my eyes from man to zone rather than zone heavy corner to learning how to play man to man. So I think this would be a really interesting fit, give the Bills a legit CB2. Jordan Davis, the Chargers, a ton of people have been saying this. I think it's a match made in heaven. They need a run stopper up the middle, and I know Linval Joseph has been back the past couple of weeks, but he just doesn't look all the same that he once was with Minnesota and the years prior to that. Jordan Davis can be that 6'6" block eater in the middle and take away that rushing attack. And then I think there is upside as a pass rusher. He only needs to do what you see Vita Vea do once or twice a week, where he just pushes the center back into the QB's lap, bull rush right up the middle, and it resets the play. It completely ruins that offensive set. And if Jordan Davis can do that once or twice a week, on top of what you have with Joey Bosa and Uchenna Nwosu coming off a really nice showing on Thursday Night Football against the Chiefs, I think there's some pieces to work with. I still think edge is a place you need to go, but if you get some interior pressure on top of what Davis gives you as a run stopper, that defense feels a whole lot better just with one player being added to the mix. Detroit Lions, Sam Howell. I think this would be the spot where I'd like to see Malik Willis go. And honestly, if you switched Howell and Willis, That'd be really interesting how this guy can push down the field and take advantage of someone like a Cortland Sutton, like a KJ Hamler when he's back, but also, can put him in the backfield with Javonte Williams. You don't know who's going to get the football in a read option or an RPO type of situation. Also, you have Jerry Jeudy in the mix, and someone who can get open that easy might help acclimate Sam Howell to an NFL-style offense. And then if Malik Willis went to Detroit, you'd start Jared Goff for a year and you give Willis his quote-unquote red shirt, and then he takes over after that. And I think that is really what I'd rather see. That said, that's not what McShay has here. Howell plays in a very college-like offense. I think it'll take a little bit of time for him to get used to what an NFL offense looks like, that pro style of play. But he has the rushing ability, he has a strong arm, and he is very accurate. A lot of people comping him to Baker Mayfield, and his play has not helped Howell's draft stock based off that comp, but I think there is a franchise quarterback to be made with Sam Howell. It really comes down to these quarterbacks. There's no slam dunk, obviously. It just comes down to what these teams see in a prospect, which one gives them the easiest path to developing that player into an NFL quarterback. And with Howell, I see mobility, I see strong arm, and I see an accurate passer. It just comes down to learning an NFL offense, learning how to read an NFL defense, and I think you're in a good spot with Sam Howell. On number 26, Andrew Booth Jr., I think this would be a really solid addition to that team. The secondary has played pretty well this year, but obviously Caleb Farley was a risky pick last year given his injury history. Booth would allow you to at least feel confident you have one of those 2 first-round corners out on the field, and then you can go and bring back someone like Janoris Jenkins, who hasn't been great this year prior to getting hurt. But Christian Fulton's mentioned here by McShay, and no matter what, you have some ability to be able to fill competent starting outside corners, which is huge, right? And I really don't think you can have enough depth at this position. Look at the Bucs this year. The only time they've really gotten into trouble this season was when their secondary was really tested because they were playing Ross Cockrell basically the entire game. And as a Steelers fan, I can assure you that's not a good thing. So Booth Jr. here, I think, adds some depth minimum, and that's worthwhile here at 26. Travon Walker of the Cowboys at 27. Kind of mixed on this off initial reaction. It comes down to like what McShay's noting here, Gregory and DeMarcus Lawrence. Are they going to be back next year? Do you move on from DeMarcus Lawrence, free up some cap space? Do you not re-sign Randy Gregory? And then if you don't bring one of those 2 back, are you then moving Micah Parsons to full-time edge rusher? Because if you do that, then linebacker would probably shape out like something like Keanu Neal gets re-signed, and you have Leighton Vander Esch ideally when he's healthy. And I think that's a fine enough unit. So I'd love to see this pick go to maybe Michael Gallup replacement, maybe some interior offensive line help, some depth in that area, guard center, something like that. Maybe a defensive tackle here. If Jordan Davis is still available, I think that would be a great pick. Or maybe just another corner, right? Kelvin Joseph's rookie out of Kentucky, and he has the ability and I think talent, size, everything to go with it to be a nice corner opposite of Diggs. But if you, with how good this corner class is, if you could get one in the first round at 27 that you like, a Booth Jr. or something like that, Kyer Elam's still on the board, Roger McCreary fell here, I think would all be solid fits. Travon Walker, though, unbelievable athlete, and he'll be that project that NFL teams will want to take because of what he could be and what he already has. Now you just need to teach him how to be a consistent edge rusher, basically. You need to teach him how to use his hands properly, win consistently. And this dude has all pro potential, just based off of his athletic ability, and if he's coached right, this dude could be a game wrecker for sure. Chris Olave to the Packers. This could serve as, hey, we don't have Devontae Adams, so MVS is our big body guy, and then we have Amari Rodgers, who we took in the 3rd round last year as our slot. Olave is the deep threat. I think that's a nice, interesting mix. If you lose Adams, those 3, I think would be a stable enough unit to where if it's Jordan Love more than likely under center, you can work with that. I am still in the mind of thinking that Rodgers moves on, therefore Adams leaves as well. So drafting Olave here finally pushes the Packers to draft the first-round wide receiver, makes Jordan Love's life easier. And then plus, like I said, Rodgers, Olave, MVS / Allen Lazard, I think that's a fine enough group of wide receivers. Not a great, and obviously you'd feel the loss of Devontae Adams, but that unit itself would be fine enough to help out Jordan Love and get you to get a fair look at what he actually is. Kansas City Chiefs at 29, Jahan Dotson. I think this is a really nice option for them to go with here. Very sudden, quick out of his routes. If you see him on these dig routes, his ability to stop and go, hit the corner, cut inside, it is among the best in this class. So he's a natural separator because of his ability to stop, start on a dime, very agile. Love to see what his 3 cone is going to be once we get there, the combine and his pro day. But the tape backs up this guy can live in the 10 to 20 yard range, and I feel like that's just something the Chiefs need right now. A lot of teams are playing that too high defense, and I was kind of thinking about this actually. Tell me if you remember this last year. But really, that trend started against Seattle because a lot of teams would play too high and force Russell Wilson not able to throw those moon balls, and that has carried over in this year as the remedy against the Chiefs and the Bills and some of these prolific passing attacks. But it really started last year with Seattle. But that's a random tangent. That point aside, Chiefs need somebody who can win over the middle of the field and produce on something other than go balls, right? And I think what they did on Thursday night with Tyreek Hill, using him as the check down in a lot of ways, was brilliant. And I think if you add Jahan Dotson as a guy who can win in that 10 to 20 yard range over the middle of the field, takes a little bit of weight off of Hill and Kelsey's shoulders, then it ultimately makes them better and helps that offense get back to where it should be, given what we've seen from them in years prior. Kyle Elam to the Cardinals, I don't think he lasts until 30, but this is a deep cornerback class. There's going to be people who fall, and I don't know why they're going at 30, but they will. I'd love to see Roger McCreary go to this man-heavy scheme in Arizona, but Kyle Elam, I think, would be a fantastic fit. You play him on the outside, potential Robert Alford replacement, but nonetheless, Arizona's going to need a number one boundary corner of the future. You already have Byron Murphy as this playmaking slot. Now you just need someone on the boundary to make plays. Kyle Elam, 6'2", has the size, can pressure at the line, can play man. So I'm a huge Kyle Elam fan. If you saw my last big board, you know how highly I think of Kyle Elam. So I think this would be a steal for the Cardinals at 30. Treylon Burks, I'm not crazy about Burks here. This would be a spot where if the Pats could get a Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave or even a Jahan Dotson, I think I'd like that a little bit more. Burks makes me think too much of what they already have with Jacoby Myers as this big body slot. That said, London and Burks both improve their stock in my eyes by having the ability to play on the outside, win down the field, create more separation. Those two feel very similar in a lot of ways. Just one plays in the Pac-12 with USC and one plays in the SEC with Arkansas. But Burks was out to a hot start this season and overall had a good year, no doubt about it. But Arkansas's offense right up until that game against Georgia looked really legit, and Burks was a big reason why. So don't hate this pick here for the Patriots. It would just be a little bit of a transition. It'd be something I have to see. If I could see Burks consistently live on the outside and prove that he can win there, I think they'd be fine with him, Aguilar, and Bourne as your outside guys, and Myers as your slot option. So it could work, and I'm not doubting it here, but I'm just not enthralled with this type of fit at 31 for the Pats. And the last pick we'll talk about, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers go Cameron Thomas. I'm actually a little surprised to see this, but Cameron Thomas almost feels like last year I said Josh Palmer, wide receiver from Tennessee, got drafted in the third round by the Chargers, was like I don't want to say poor man, but like the B-level version of Jamar Chase because they play so similarly. He just doesn't do it as efficiently or as good as Jamar Chase does, which sucks. But Cameron Thomas feels like the B-level version of George Karlaftis. Huge human being, like 6'6", will push a tackle back, strong as it gets in this class, and has put up awesome numbers this year with the Aztecs. You see some of those numbers there on your screen. He's been fantastic, improves his stock exponentially. I think in a 3-4 defense, he'll be great as a 3-4 DN. And this is your Ndamukong Suh replacement in my eyes. Someone who I think right now would give you better pass rush, which is something that we've seen the Bucs started to struggle with over the past couple of weeks. So upgrade there as a pass rusher. Where it remains to be seen is Ndamukong Suh may maybe not be as good of a run stopper now as he once was, but he's still a factor in the run game and helps stuff up the middle when he's out in the field. I don't know if Cam Thomas is going to be able to make that immediate impact. So the Bucs might lose a little bit in run defense with Thomas replacing Suh, but they would also be able to gain some pass rush, which is ultimately more valuable in a lot of people's eyes, including my own. But that's going to do it for my reaction to Todd McShay's first 2022 NFL mock draft. Tell me what you thought down in the comments section. What picks do you not like from McShay, and what picks do you think are really solid? Who's your favorite team? Who would you like to see them end up with? Love to talk some football with you in the comments section. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, hit that like button. It would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel, want to see more sports content like this, just hit that big red subscribe button. That's going to do it for me. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Teach, and I am signing off.